Chosen ones, you must be spiritually already. Do not let these days catch you sleeping. Edis and Gentimimen, today you are not here by accident. Something far greater than coincidence has drawn you into this moment, into this message, into this divine appointment. There are seasons in life when everything seems ordinary on the surface, yet underneath something extraordinary is unfolding. This is one of those seasons. These are not just days passing by, these are destiny days. And only those who are spiritually awake will recognize what is happening while others walk right past their miracle. Right now, the world is louder than it has ever been. Fear, distraction, entertainment, and endless information are pulling minds in 1,000 directions. But beneath all that noise, a quiet and powerful shift is taking place. Those who are chosen are being called to wake up, not physically, but spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Because what is coming next in your life will not be accessed by effort alone. It will be accessed by awareness. You see, every great breakthrough first appears as an inner knowing before it becomes an outer reality. Long before a door opens, something stirs inside you, a restlessness, a feeling that you are meant for more, a sense that what you are living now is not the full story. That is not imagination, that is your higher self reminding you of who you truly are. The tragedy of this season is not that people will fail. It is that many will fall asleep right before everything changes. They will allow discouragement, delay, and disappointment to convince them that nothing is happening. But the truth is, everything is happening, just not where the eyes can see it yet. This is why this message matters. Because when you understand what is taking place in the unseen, you stop giving up in the seen. Chosen ones are not exempt from struggle. They are trained through it. Pressure is not a sign you are losing, it is a sign you are being refined. When life seems to test you the most, it is often because you are standing at the edge of something greater than you have ever known. The only danger is losing sight of who you are while waiting for what is coming. And that is what spiritual sleep looks like. It is not about closing your eyes. It is about forgetting your power. It is about letting circumstances define you instead of letting your inner vision lead you. It is about believing what you see instead of trusting what you know. But when you are awake, something changes. You stop reacting to life and you start directing it. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? You begin to say, this is aligning me for something bigger. You no longer see delay as denial, you see it as preparation. You no longer see obstacles as punishment, you see them as positioning. So today, this message is not here to entertain you. It is here to activate you. It is here to remind you that these days are not ordinary, and neither are you. Something has been moving in your favor behind the scenes, and it is closer now than it has ever been. The only question is, will you stay awake long enough to receive it? Your awareness is the most valuable asset you possess, yet most people treat it as if it were nothing. They allow it to be pulled, drained, distracted, and distorted by everything around them. But the truth is, whatever holds your attention ends up controlling your future. That is why the battlefield of destiny is not in the streets, in the economy, or in other people. It is in the mind. Whoever governs your inner focus governs what you become. Chosen ones are different because they are being trained to master their awareness. The outer world will always try to dominate you with circumstances, opinions, and emotional reactions. It will tell you what you are, what you can expect, and what your limits should be. But when you are spiritually awake, you no longer accept those suggestions. You understand that what you dwell on internally will eventually be expressed externally. So instead of letting the world dictate your state, you learn to choose it. Most people live on autopilot. They wake up thinking the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, and expecting the same outcomes. They don't realize they are recreating the same life every day simply by repeating the same inner conversation. Awareness breaks that cycle. The moment you become conscious of what you are thinking and feeling, you gain the power to change it. And the moment you change it, your reality must follow. This is why attention is sacred. What you look at, what you listen to, what you emotionally react to, all of it is shaping your destiny. When you give your awareness to fear, fear multiplies. When you give it to lack, lack grows. When you give it to doubt, doubt becomes your experience. But when you give your awareness to your desired identity, to peace, to confidence, to success, to divine alignment, those qualities begin to take form in your life. Spiritual sleep is not ignorance, it is unconscious focus. It is allowing the mind to wander into worry, regret, resentment, and anxiety without ever noticing that you are planting seeds with every thought. The mind is always creating. Even when you think nothing is happening, something is being formed. Your inner imagery, your expectations, and your emotional assumptions are constructing the blueprint of what will appear next. That is why the chosen are being called to wake up now. These are not slow times, these are sensitive times. The thoughts you hold now carry more momentum than ever. Your imagination is active, and whatever you repeatedly dwell on is being impressed upon life itself. This is not symbolic, it is spiritual law. Your awareness is a creative force. When you truly grasp this, you stop being careless with your inner world. You stop entertaining every negative scenario. You stop replaying painful memories. You stop forecasting failure. You realize that every time you imagine something, you are sending instructions to your future. Most people do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because their awareness is scattered. They start a new vision but continue to imagine the old life. They desire change but emotionally live in the past. They want abundance but mentally rehearse lack. Their awareness is divided, and divided awareness produces delayed results. But when your attention becomes focused, something powerful happens. You begin to inhabit the version of you that already has what you seek. You no longer wait for reality to change before you feel different. You feel different first, and reality has no choice but to adjust. This is what it means to stay awake. It means you do not let appearances decide your inner state. You might see empty spaces. You might experience silence. You might face resistance. But you do not give your awareness to it. You give your awareness to who you are becoming. That is the difference between those who rise and those who repeat cycles. The outer world is always trying to pull you back into reaction. A message, a bill, a delay, a memory, a comment, these are all invitations to lose control of your awareness. And every time you emotionally react, you reinforce the old pattern. But when you pause, observe, and choose a higher assumption, you break the pattern. Awareness is not passive, it is active direction. Chosen ones do not ignore reality, they outgrow it. They understand that what they focus on now is what they will live in later. So they become disciplined with their inner attention. They decide what thoughts get to stay. They decide what emotions get to linger. They decide what identity gets to be reinforced. This is why so many people feel tired right now. Not because they are doing too much physically, but because they are unconsciously fighting within. Their awareness is being pulled between what they want and what they fear, between what they hope for and what they see. That inner tug of war drains energy. When you commit your awareness fully to the assumption that things are working in your favor, peace returns, not because everything has changed yet, but because you have. And that inner shift is the true turning point. The moment you consistently hold the awareness of being favored, guided, protected, and aligned, life must rearrange. It may not happen instantly, but it will happen inevitably. Reality is a mirror, and awareness is what it reflects. So when confusion arises, do not ask, why is this happening? Ask, where is my awareness right now? When frustration appears, do not say, this is going wrong. Say, I am choosing a new focus. When delays show up, do not assume failure, assume alignment. Because awareness always leads manifestation. The awakened know this. That is why they move differently. They speak differently. They think differently. They do not allow moods to dictate their destiny. They do not allow temporary conditions to rewrite their identity. They remain aware. They remain centered. They remain focused on the truth of who they are becoming. And that is why they rise while others stay stuck. Because the one who controls their awareness controls their future. Every season of your life is silently asking you one powerful question. Who do you believe you are right now? Not who you used to be, not who people said you were, but who you are choosing to assume yourself to be in this moment. These days you are living in are not random. They are designed to test your self-concept. They are revealing whether you truly know who you are, or whether you will collapse back into an old identity the moment things become uncomfortable. Most people think life tests their circumstances. In truth, life tests their identity. You can want success, peace, love, and abundance all day long, but if you still secretly see yourself as overlooked, unlucky, or not enough, reality will keep reflecting that back to you. Your world does not respond to what you wish for. It responds to what you assume yourself to be. That is why these days feel intense. They are pressuring you to decide whether you will stay loyal to the higher version of yourself or retreat to the familiar story. Chosen ones are being asked to hold a new self image even when nothing around them seems to confirm it yet. That is the test. Can you walk as the one who is favored while the evidence is silent? Can you think as the one who is blessed while the outer world still looks unfinished? Can you speak as the one who is protected while uncertainty is in the air? Most people fail this test not because they are weak, but because they look for permission from their circumstances before they change how they see themselves. But self-concept does not wait for proof. Self-concept creates proof. That is why your inner dialogue matters more now than ever. The way you talk to yourself when nobody is listening is shaping your destiny. When you say, "This always happens to me," you are reinforcing an identity. When you say, "I'm always struggling," you are choosing a role. When you say, "Nothing ever works out," you are giving life a script to follow. But when you begin to say, "Things always turn in my favor," when you say, "I am guided," when you say, "I am chosen," you are stepping into a new self-concept, and the world must eventually play along. These days are full of moments that try to pull you back into your old story. A delay happens, someone disappoints you, a door stays closed longer than expected, and instantly the old identity tries to return, the one that feels rejected, unlucky, forgotten, or small. That is the moment that determines everything. Do you go back to who you were, or do you remain who you decided to become? Self-concept is not what you claim when things are easy. It is what you hold when things are unclear. This is why so many people almost manifest their breakthrough, but never quite do. They start imagining a better life, but the moment something goes wrong, they emotionally fall back into the old version of themselves. They say they believe, but they identify with struggle. They say they are ready, but they still see themselves as waiting. And life always obeys the strongest identity. If you see yourself as waiting, you keep waiting. If you see yourself as overlooked, you stay overlooked. If you see yourself as rising, you rise. Chosen ones are now being trained to hold a higher self concept even while walking through unfinished scenes. That is why this season feels uncomfortable. You are no longer allowed to see yourself as the old version. You are being asked to think, feel, and assume as the new one. That is not easy. It requires discipline. It requires emotional control. It requires refusing to let temporary experiences rewrite your permanent identity. But once you understand this, you stop being shaken so easily. When someone doesn't respond, you don't take it personally because your self-concept is not ignored. When a door delays, you don't feel rejected because your self-concept is aligned. When something falls apart, you don't panic because your self-concept is guided. You begin to move through life with quiet confidence, not because everything is perfect, but because you know who you are. And this is what the days ahead are really testing. Can you remain loyal to your chosen identity when the world is not yet reflecting it? That loyalty is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. Most people abandon their vision not because it was wrong, but because they did not hold the self concept long enough for it to solidify. They feel hopeful one day, defeated the next. Powerful one moment, small the next. And that emotional inconsistency creates unstable results. But when you decide, "This is who I am now," and you refuse to let circumstances argue with you, something shifts. Your inner world stabilizes. Your reactions change, your expectations rise, and life begins to reorganize around your new identity. Self-concept is not about pretending. It is about assuming. You are not waiting to become chosen. You are chosen deciding to remember it. You are not waiting to become favored. You are favored learning to think like it. That is why these days feel like a spiritual oboe, because they are. Every time something doesn't go as planned, you are being asked, will you go back to the old you, or will you remain the new you? And every time you choose the new identity, even quietly, even internally, you pass the test. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to prove it. You just have to be it. When you walk through the world assuming you are protected, people treat you differently. When you assume you are valuable, opportunities find you. When you assume you are destined for more, life begins to open. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. So let the days challenge you. Let the moments test you. Let the delays question you. And every time answer with the same inner knowing. I know who I am. Every image you allow to live in your mind is a seed. Every scene you replay, every future you imagine, every fear you picture, Every hope you entertain, all of it is being recorded by the deeper levels of your being. And whatever is impressed there must eventually find expression in your outer world. This is why imagination is not fantasy. It is the creative engine of your life. Most people think they are only creating when they are planning, visualizing intentionally, or praying. But the truth is, you are creating all the time. When you worry, you are imagining. When you regret, you are imagining. When you fear, you are imagining. And whatever you imagine with emotion becomes a command to reality. Spiritual sleep is not doing nothing, it is imagining unconsciously. People fall asleep spiritually when they allow their mind to wander into worst case scenarios, replay old pain, or anticipate disappointment without realizing they are actively shaping their future. They think they are being cautious, but they are actually being creative in the wrong direction. Your imagination does not judge, it does not analyze, it does not filter. It simply takes what you repeatedly present to it and works to bring it into form. That is why these days are so important. The mental pictures you hold now are not harmless, they are instructions. When you repeatedly imagine being ignored, life finds ways to ignore you. When you repeatedly imagine being disappointed, life arranges disappointments. When you repeatedly imagine struggle, struggle appears. But when you imagine being supported, supported you become. When you imagine being favored, favor follows you. When you imagine success, success begins to look for you. Most people don't realize they are sending out commands even while scrolling, daydreaming, or overthinking. The scenes that move them emotionally are the ones that take root. If you allow your mind to keep running the same negative movie, that movie will eventually play out in real life. Chosen ones are being trained to use imagination deliberately, not to escape reality, but to change it. This is why your inner world matters more than your outer one. Your outer world is simply the echo of what has already been imagined and assumed. If you want to know where your life is going, look at what you have been picturing. Have you been seeing doors closing? Have you been expecting rejection? Have you been imagining failure? Or have you been quietly assuming that something good is unfolding? The imagination does not respond to effort, it responds to feeling. Whatever you feel to be real internally will become real externally. That is why forced positive thinking does not work. But assumed truth does. When you imagine something and feel it as natural, it sinks into the deeper mind and begins its work. Spiritual awakening means realizing that you cannot afford careless imagination anymore. You cannot keep replaying old wounds. You cannot keep visualizing things going wrong. You cannot keep entertaining fear as if it were harmless, because it is not harmless, it is creative. Most people don't need more affirmations. They need more awareness of what they are already imagining. When you catch yourself imagining lack, shift the scene. When you catch yourself imagining loss, replace it. When you catch yourself imagining delay, revise it. This is not denial, this is direction. The world you see is not the cause, it is the result. So if you don't like what you are seeing, change what you are imagining. That is the power the chosen are stepping into now. You are no longer meant to be a victim of random thoughts. You are meant to be the director of your inner movie. The moment you take control of what you visualize, what you expect, and what you feel to be true, life begins to shift. You don't have to visualize for hours. You don't have to struggle. You just have to consistently return your imagination to what you desire to experience. Even when reality shows you the opposite. Especially when reality shows you the opposite. Because what you imagine with faith becomes the blueprint reality must follow. And that is why these days cannot be lived unconsciously. What you call waiting is not empty time. It is alignment in motion. It only looks like nothing is happening because the work is happening in places you cannot yet see. Most people misunderstand delay. They assume it means rejection, misdirection, or failure. But delay is not a denial of destiny. It is the rearrangement of reality so that what you desire can enter without resistance. These days are filled with delays for a reason. The old version of you could not sustain what is coming. The old thinking, the old reactions, the old self-image, the old emotional patterns would have damaged or pushed away the very thing you asked for. So time stretches not to punish you, but to prepare you. If everything arrived the moment you wanted it, you would still be the same person who asked for it. And that person is not the one meant to hold it. Chosen ones are being reshaped in the waiting. Every pause is refining your awareness. Every slow moment is strengthening your self-concept. Every unanswered question is training your faith. The problem is not the delay. The problem is what people assume about the delay. If you assume delay means it's not happening, you weaken your alignment. If you assume delay means it's being prepared, you strengthen it. Reality responds not to the clock, but to the assumption. That is why some people wait years and still never receive, while others wait weeks and suddenly everything shifts. The difference is not time. The difference is what they believe the time means. When you stay in the feeling of already being chosen, supported, and guided, delay becomes a bridge instead of a barrier. Most people quit in the waiting room. They stop expecting. They stop imagining. They stop assuming. And when the inner state changes, the outer result collapses. But when you remain internally fulfilled even while externally unfinished, something powerful happens. You stay in alignment. You stay in the frequency of receiving. You stay in the state where life has no choice but to comply. This is why some of the greatest miracles happen right after people feel like nothing is working, because the final moments before breakthrough often feel like stagnation. The seed breaks underground before it rises. The door unlocks before it opens. The shift happens before it becomes visible. Delay is not empty, it is active preparation. You are being synchronized with people you haven't met yet. You are being guided away from paths that would have harmed you. You are being repositioned into the exact timing where everything aligns. But you only experience that benefit if you trust during the delay. If you collapse into doubt, you delay it further. If you stay in knowing, you accelerate it. That is the spiritual law of timing. Chosen ones are being trained to remain emotionally steady while reality is still catching up. To feel confident while things are unfinished. To feel safe while things are unclear. To feel fulfilled while things are still forming. This is not passive waiting. This is active assumption. You are not waiting for life. Life is rearranging to meet you. And the moment you stop seeing delay as punishment and start seeing it as positioning, peace enters. You no longer feel rushed. You no longer feel behind. You no longer feel forgotten. You feel aligned. That is why the delay had to happen. Not to keep you from your destiny, but to prepare you for it. There is a moment in every great transformation that feels like nothing is happening. Not because nothing is happening, but because everything is about to happen. This is the moment that separates those who receive their miracle from those who walk away right before it arrives. And this is the moment you are living in now. Right before life shifts, motivation often drops. Right before answers appear, confusion increases. Right before doors open, silence grows louder. This is not coincidence. It is the final test of spiritual wakefulness. Most people do not fail because they were unworthy. They fail because they became emotionally tired. They stopped expecting. They stopped imagining. They stopped holding the inner assumption that something beautiful was unfolding. And when the inner state collapses, the outer result dissolves with it. This is why spiritual sleep is dangerous right now. Spiritual sleep is not about going to bed. It is about giving up internally. It is the moment you say, I don't care anymore. It is the moment you stop visualizing. It is the moment you lower your expectations. It is the moment you emotionally detach from your own destiny. And tragically, that moment often happens when the miracle is closest. Because before manifestation, there is always a void. A quiet space where the old has ended but the new has not yet appeared. A strange stillness where nothing seems to be moving. And if you interpret that stillness as failure, you fall asleep. But if you interpret it as alignment, you stay awake. This is where chosen ones must rise above emotional evidence. You cannot let how it feels right now decide what is coming next. You must let your inner knowing override the temporary emptiness. Right now you might feel tired, disconnected, less inspired, less excited. Not because things are going wrong, but because the old version of you is dissolving. Your former identity is losing its grip. Your former patterns are weakening. Your former limitations are fading. And that feels uncomfortable. It feels like losing something, even though what you are really losing is the version of you that no longer fits where you are going. So many people misinterpret this phase and go back to old habits, old thinking, and old self-images because they want the familiar discomfort rather than the unfamiliar stillness. But the stillness is sacred. It is the space where reality reorganizes. This is why you must not fall asleep now. Not mentally, not emotionally, not spiritually. You must continue to assume that something is forming in your favor, even when there is no evidence yet. Because the moment you stop assuming, you break the momentum. The inner world leads, the outer world follows. Every time you quietly say, I know it's coming, you keep the channel open. Every time you feel gratitude before it arrives, you stay aligned. Every time you hold the identity of the one who receives, you remain ready. But when you say, it's probably not going to happen, when you emotionally disengage, when you stop imagining the fulfillment, you go back to sleep. And sleep is not rest. Sleep is forgetting. Forgetting who you are. Forgetting what you were called to. Forgetting what you asked for. That is why this season is so critical. You are not meant to strive right now. You are meant to stay awake. Stay aware of your inner dialogue. Stay conscious of your expectations. Stay deliberate with your imagination. Because reality is listening. It is responding to what you believe is happening behind the scenes. And what you believe is happening behind the scenes becomes what happens on the stage of your life. So if you believe nothing is happening, nothing will continue. If you believe something is aligning, it must show up. This is not hope. This is spiritual law. The universe does not reward effort. It reflects assumption. So assume the miracle. Assume the breakthrough. Assume the shift. Even when the room is quiet. Even when the signs are subtle. Even when the old life seems to linger. Because right before the new world appears, the old one goes silent. And only those who remain awake through that silence step into what they have been waiting for.